Okay, so I'm on my way to my hamburger shop, which I own pretty passively. If you guys didn't know, um, me and a partner of mine, about 4 or 5 years ago, we did a hamburger shop, and we got like 3 locations, and we did pretty well with it. And last year, we decided to sell 2 out of the 3, and the third one we're keeping because it runs pretty passively without us having to be there. But sometimes I go in, I would say about twice a month, 2 to 3 times a month. Sometimes I go in if, let's say, we're trying to fix something and I'm there to meet a contractor, or sometimes I just go in to say hi to the employees, talk to the manager, see what's going on. Um, yeah, but for the most part, I don't really need to be there unless something big happens, like someone quits or someone needs 2 weeks off and we're a little bit short. But so far, in the last 12 months, I think I really had to work like twice, maybe, because someone had to leave for like 2 weeks, or they had a death in the family or stuff like that. So, um, yeah, and also I'm a little bit sweaty because I just came back from the gym. So the restaurant's about 15 minutes away from my house, so it's pretty convenient. We also do breakfast, like breakfast burritos, omelets, French toast. Also do some teriyaki, Mexican food, burritos, tacos. It's kind of like a hole in the wall, like a shack. And a lot of people were DMing me and asking me what it's like to own a passive restaurant or how to own a passive business, things like that. And I always tell them um, there's no such thing as passive business because every business has risks. At any moment, something could happen. At any moment, the manager could quit, and that will require me to be there full time. Or, something could always happen. Or the restaurant could just run really bad and start losing money, which in that case, I need to go there and try to bring back the sales, try to lower costs, and all that requires a lot of time from the owner. So, you can't really own anything passively unless maybe you have like gas station or coin laundry, but even those, you have to be on top of the maintenance, you have to be on top of the prices, you have to follow your P&Ls very closely. So everything keeps you up at night, even though you don't need to be there. And that's something I wanted to point out, especially for a restaurant. It's always something, the health department, the walk-in cooler is breaking, but I think what made this business very passive for us is the employees. Having these very consistent, long-time employees and having a good manager is really what changes the game. Because we had 3 restaurants. The other 2 were not passive. Especially restaurant 1 was super annoying. I mean, just non-stop blowing up. People calling out, equipment breaking. And the second one was better, but also very annoying because we're dealing with a lot of employees. We have like 15 employees at the restaurant or 20 employees, part-timers, full-timers. But the thing about this one that we still have is we only got like 7 employees total. So it makes things very easy. And all of those employees are long time and they're very consistent, they're mature, they're very good people. And also the manager there, he's a friend of mine. The manager is a very good person. He takes care of things. He doesn't bother us. Any small things that happen, he takes care of it. So yeah, I think it really comes down to that. If you want a great passive business, you need to know the business very well, inside and out, and you need to have very good employees that are lifers, meaning they stay there for 10 plus years, and you need to have a good manager or supervisor that will take care of things. Because a lot of the times the things that can go wrong is employee drama, and it happens all the time. If 2 employees don't like each other, and it gets very, very intense, even though over something that's like not serious at all. That happens so many times. and you always need to, you know, police them, and yeah, that's one of the challenges. Then you have the equipment breaking, and you have overall just sales that you need to keep up, because sometimes, you know, one of the food might be tasting bad, but you don't know about it. You know, one time we were serving carne asada, and you know, the supplier was giving us some meat that was very tough, like grizzle, a lot of grizzle there, and I didn't know about it, you know, because the employees aren't really tasting it, until I was looking at Yelp, and there was a lot of reviews mentioning the carne asada and pictures and all that. So, you know, I looked into it and I was like, oh, okay, I didn't know. And we serve a lot of carne asada with the burritos, tacos, you know, so yeah, things like that. You know, when the owner's not there, it affects sales. And once you lose customers, it's really hard to gain them back. And for a shack, like a hamburger shack, like the one I own, there's very little new customers that just come. You know, what you need to do is just retain the existing customers. We call it legacy customers. You know, so if you own like another business like Coin Laundry, you know, you have these legacy customers that's just been always going there, or you have a cleaning business, or, you know, whatever it could be, boba shop maybe. But yeah, I did also want to mention, you know, it depends on the type of business if you want it to be passive. If you own like a coffee shop or a boba shop, it's very hard to run it passively, because, you know, you always need to stay on top of the new drinks that come out. You know, you can't keep serving the same drinks. You gotta, you know, print new menus, do new items, do R&D on new drinks, you know, new flavors, tiger sugar boba, you know, whatever comes out, you know, cheese foam, you know, like you need to stay ahead. Otherwise, people are just gonna go to the new spots. Same goes for a cafe. You know, you gotta be on top of the menus and the prices, and so there's type of businesses that even if you have good employees, it's just hard to be passive, because you need to constantly renovate. So the reason why a business like I own is passive is because the menu pretty much never changes. It's your same burgers, burritos, breakfast burritos. I mean, the menu hasn't changed for years. You know, sometimes I add stuff here and there just for fun, you know, but I don't need to. You know, it's bean and cheese burrito, carne asada burrito. So the menu doesn't change, which is very easy. All I need to do is update the prices, maybe once a year, you know, raise it a little bit to meet inflation. Yeah, so a lot of the things could be done by the manager, and he takes care of all the things. The times that I will need to step in is, let's say, like there's a major equipment issue. You know, we need to replace the walk-in cooler. It costs like $4,000. You know, I will need to reach out and kind of get pricing on those things, those items. But, you know, small fixes, I will tell the manager, hey, go call this person, have them come check it out. And then the manager will say, hey, it was, you know, $400 to fix. All right, cool. Write them a check. Another times I need to come in is there's employee drama. You know, employees like, oh, I hate working with this person, I want to quit. And the manager would be like, hey, let me talk to the owner. And then I'll come in and be like, hey, what's going on? You know, we can't, you know, can you guys please, you know, what's the issue? And sometimes it's just having a small talk will fix the issue. Hello. Hi. Good morning, guys. Hey, how you guys? Good. Okay. So today is Sunday. My manager is actually off on Sundays. So, you know, sometimes I come in on a Sunday, just kind of check it out. Created my own payroll system using Google Sheets. So yeah, and I could track the sales through Clover on my phone. Yeah, and also, you know, this restaurant is a super old building. It's like a whole, it's like, it's a shack. You know, it's like a burger shack. And you know, that's kind of our strategy, is like, we just didn't want something that, you know, had a lot of room. We just wanted something with a large margin of error, meaning something that was just running super bad. So if we come in, it can't get any worse, kind of. So that was actually a good strategy because we got it for cheap and it was making money. So if we just improve stuff, I mean, it just makes things better. And even though our burger shop is still a shack, we made slight improvements on it. Because a lot of times people get too optimistic and they sign into these really heavy leases, long-term, expensive leases. They just think the sales are going to double, and you come in and you find out like it's really hard to raise sales for businesses. It's actually really, really hard. And a lot of times you look at Instagram and YouTube and think like, oh, I just got this business and increased the sales by 3 times. No, you just can't. Unless you get super lucky, or unless it's like a business where you could directly make phone calls and, like cleaning business. You could cold call 1,000 people and get a few customers and increase sales like that. So unless it's something like that, it's really hard. The person before you, was running this business for many years and they know in and out and they weren't able to do it. So it's not likely that someone, you're going to come in with no experience and raise the sales all of a sudden. So it's a very hard thing to do. And I think if you're into the buy and build mindset, meaning you buy an existing business to improve it, you have to you have to assume that sales are not going to go up. You have to assume that sales might actually go down because of the ownership and change in ownership, and kind of do your projection from there. What am I doing here? Damn, I want some fried chicken. Fried chicken would be so nice today. I'm going lunch for me and my wife after this, and I'm gonna stop by the Japanese market and get Mitsuwa market and get ramyun for her. But for me, I've been craving Ono Hawaiian for some reason, so I might have to just do that for myself. 'Cause Ono Hawaiian is good. Is this real? Yeah, it's real. There's whole other ways employee could be stealing, and that's another topic. There's a lot of ways employees could be stealing, and there's also inventory theft. They take a block of cheese home. They go to the walk-in cooler and they, stuff a lot of steaks in their pocket or something. I mean, that happens all the time. So much so that restaurants usually have a camera in their walk-in cooler. And also, another thing that's very interesting is a lot of weird things happen in the walk-in cooler. And what I mean by that is, if you work in the restaurant industry, you know what I'm talking about. So, but I don't say anything. If it causes no drama, then, and I don't see it, I don't say anything. All right. What else is going on over here? So I'm just doing the cash balance, the registers. We have a starting register, end register. We log all those things to make sure everything balances. And these are things that the manager will just take care of every time he's here, every morning. But because I'm here, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it for him. Okay, that wasn't the right one. It's actually this one. Okay, so one more thing. This is what we use to do our orders. The manager will do all this. We order, it says order on Sunday and Thursdays. We order meats from this person, and then we have a produce guy that we order every Tuesdays and Fridays. We have another vendor, and we also have another vendor for the dry goods. So let's say the manager is out, or he's on vacation, or he calls sick, and there needs to be an order that needs to be done. I would need to come and do the orders, which doesn't take that long. Also, it's Labor Day on Monday, and we're going to remain open. And I don't mind closing it on Labor Day, but I think the employees wanted to work and they wanted the money. So we're going to leave it open, but I'm also going to give them an extra like $50 to the people that are working on Monday, or $100 each, something like that, to just show them like, hey, thanks for working on Labor Day. So even stuff like that, I'll tell the manager, hey, can you give everyone an extra $50 or $100 on Monday, tomorrow, and tell them thanks for working on Labor's Day. He takes care of all that. Hi. Let's see. Take some hot Cheetos. Man, hot Cheetos is so good. Let me take some crap home. Let me take some. How are you doing, Martin?
Yes, sir. How are you?
Good.
All right, Daniel.
A little tour. Some. Ooh, look at this. Some nice chili. Beans.
Salud, salud.
Oh, thank you.
Salud, Daniel.
All right, the walk-in cooler. Ooh. I got this thing replaced here, $4,000 broke like 2 weeks ago. The thing, it's like everything goes good and something like that happens. It's like, yeah, sucks. What am I here for? Give me some eggs. Taking some hot Cheetos home because I'm gonna use it and I want to eat it. I mean, it's so good. So I'm just taking a little bit home just to enjoy. What else? Thank you, guys. I'll see you.
See you, Daniel. Take care, okay?
Yeah.
Have a nice weekend, Daniel.
You too.
All right.
Bye, guys. You too. Also, I get this question a lot, is how did you buy your first business? We bought our first business by searching online on BizBuySell, bizben.com. There's two websites. There's bizbuysell.com and bizben.com. Those are the two biggest websites, public domains, where you buy and sell businesses. And it's kind of like a lot of the stuff there are BS. So it's navigating in like very dangerous waters, because they say all these things, they say the most positive things. The sky's the limit, or blah, 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 or, sales is growing and super easy to run. They say, the broker says all these things. And you have to watch out for that, because it's never easy. It's never super easy to run. I mean, it's just very tough. Their business is not making what it says almost all the time. I don't think I've ever saw a business where it says it's making, 100,000 a year, and it's actually making 100,000 a year or more. Even when you call the broker, they're like, oh, it's making more than that. I know, I've never, ever, and I've seen over 1,000. I've never seen a business where it says it's making a certain amount of profit and it actually is. It's always lower, right? So you always have to look at it like, okay, if they say they're making 100,000, they're probably making nothing, or at best 60,000 a year, and you have to kind of have that in mind when you look at these businesses. So we got our first business by looking at BizBuySell. called a random broker. I got kind of lucky because the broker was actually a good person. And it's very, very rare. I'll say 1 out of 20 brokers are actually decent people, or 1 out of 10. Business brokers, it's very different if you're dealing with real estate. Because business, there's just much less regulation and it's just more hearsay, right? Where real estate is like, hey, if you say there's a swimming pool and it's permitted, and actually it wasn't permitted for a swimming pool, then the broker gets sued, right? There's a lot, and you could, get in trouble, your license revoked. But in business, it's, you don't really claim anything. You just say, hey, the business is doing this amount, but the buyer has to do their own due diligence, right? The broker doesn't take any responsibility. So they could kind of say whatever they want and they won't get in trouble. So business brokers are just different animals. They are like car salesmen, but even worse. Because they don't take any responsibility after the transaction is over. They just take their money and they go home. And the business broker fee is a lot higher than a real estate. Real estate is about 5-6%, which is shared by 2 brokers. A business sale commission is about 10%, and it's not shared because the business broker usually 95% of the time will not work with a buying broker. They'll just say no cooperation, or they wouldn't mention it. But if you say, hey, I have a buying broker, can he contact you? The selling business broker will just ghost you and tell the seller nothing, So it's just very dirty out there. But anyways, what was I saying? Oh yeah, so we got our first business looking at online biz buy sell. We looked at a multiple, we were going to make offers, and sooner or later, it took us about 8 months to really get the first one. We had to go through 1,000 different businesses, and we finally found one that we met the seller and we felt like this was the right one, and it was actually profitable and doing well, and we got it. We bought the first business for $430,000. And we overpaid like crazy, but we didn't know better because it was our first time. Really, we should have got it for like $300,000, $350,000. But there was a lot of things wrong with the business which we didn't know because we weren't, we didn't know the business. That later we found out, we're like, oh man, like I can't believe we didn't even see this. The business didn't have workers' comp. They didn't have insurance. They didn't pay overtime to their employees. They were paying a lot under the table. The equipment was all broken and old. I mean, the plumbing was messed up. The roof was messed up. So many things that we should have caught, but we didn't. And we were suckers, but we didn't know any better. We're 2 guys from finance. So we got our first business for $430,000. The down payment on that was about $120,000 total. It was about $80,000 for the SBA loan down payment, and then it was about $20,000 for closing costs, SBA closing costs. Another $20,000 for first month's rent, security deposit, inventory, utility deposits. So overall, the total considered down payment was $120,000. So it was $60,000 from me, $60,000 from my partner, and we were 2 finance people. We had a little bit of savings saved up, so we kind of went all in. I quit my job. I went in there, just worked like 60, 70 hours a week to learn everything, and it was pretty crazy. And it worked out. And COVID happened shortly after, which was another crazy story. And yeah, we were just working like crazy to make ends meet because COVID happened and sales just plummeted. But if you guys know, COVID actually made things very busy shortly after. All the free money came in and, place was getting super busy. Where am I going? Dude, I'm lost. Shh! The freak, dude. Yeah, so COVID made things very busy. Damn, I hate being lost. Yeah, so COVID made things really busy, which was good and bad because we had such a hard time finding employees, and we had to shut the restaurant down a few times because everyone got COVID and it was crazy. But a lot of free money came in, which helped. And then inflation happened, which was the killer. You know, sales dropping because people didn't want to eat out too much because prices were going up. Our food costs were going up, you know, double, at least double for everything, at least. You know, the box of eggs, you know, quintupled, not even quadrupled, it quintupled. You know, box of lettuce quintupled. You know, I don't know about these 3, 4, 5% inflation numbers. It was like 500% for some items. So yeah, it was very intense. And in the midst of all that, you know, we just decided to move on, and we sold. You know, initially we wanted to just sell one, but someone came and wanted two of them, and we're like, okay, cool. So one guy bought 2 restaurants. We kept this one, the one that I went to, the passive one, because it's passive. And yeah. So anyways, going back to the numbers. First restaurant we bought for $430,000. We had to put up about $120,000 in total capital, including the down payment and working capital. The second restaurant was actually a much value add play, which because we knew the business pretty well, we got a second location for a lot cheaper, and this was off the market too. So later when you get into the business and you start buying up other restaurants or other businesses, you're gonna almost want to do this off market. So whatever's on BizBuySell or LoopNet or BizBen is like trash. You know, that's what they say. You know, that's where deals go to die, right? Is you want to get these pocket listings or things that haven't hit the market, and a lot of times it doesn't hit the market because the seller just doesn't want word to get out there. Hey, did you know this person's selling the restaurant? And all the employees know. It's just hectic, you know, because sometimes it takes many months to offload something, and for those many months the employees are going to be like, hey, why are you selling it? You know, and their safety, you know, comes into question. So it's just not a good way to do it. So a lot of times these transactions are off the market, and in order to get off the market listings, you have to just be in the know. You know, you have to know brokers, you have to know people, you have to know the community, you have to know other restaurant owners. You know, so the second one is because we had the relationship with the broker that gave us the first restaurant. He was like, hey, I know this guy that wants to sell, but he doesn't want to put it in the market. So we're like, sure, we'll go check it out. And you know, it was very cheap, and it was a good restaurant. So we decided to go for it, and you know, we spent about $50,000 on the remodel. I think we got the restaurant for about $200,000 when it was a better restaurant than the first one. So the first one we paid $430,000, and we overpaid. The second one, it was a much better restaurant, and we got it for half the price, just because we were in the know, and it was off market. And we got really lucky with that one, and we put in like some money to fix the building. That one did really well, and we sold that one for a profit, meaning even after we made all that money, and we sold it, and we made even more money by selling that restaurant. So that's how value add is really profitable. You know, when you do anything like real estate or business, value adding is kind of the way it is, where it is. So you buy something that's already profitable, and you try to add value to it by fixing, you know, the building or doing a remodel. That's where am I going? Oh, that's kind of the way to go. Now the third restaurant is even more interesting. The third restaurant, the owner, so it was owned by the dad, who was very old, and he passed away, and he owned the building. The son doesn't want to have anything to do with the business, which was a burger shop. So the son leased it out to one of the cooks and said, hey, do you want to run the restaurant? Just pay me, you know, month to month, you know, X amount of rent. So the cook was doing that, and the cook wanted to just retire and say, hey, I'm going back to Mexico, you know, I'm done. Now the son's like, I'm not going in there running this restaurant. And he's sitting on this property that's like breaking apart, you know, plumbing, everything's messed up. So he reached out to his friend who owns a huge food distributing company, which we bought from. He's like, do you know anyone looking? And because we put ourselves out there and we talked to a lot of people, you know, distributors, wholesalers, business owners, he's like, yeah, I do know a guy, you know. And he called me. He's like, hey, are you looking for another burger shop? I was like, yeah, of course. He's like, I know a guy. He owns the building he wants to sell the building, but the business, too. I was like, okay. So we met with him, and the seller was like, hey, we want this amount, and I told him, I was like, can't do that amount. Like the building is breaking apart. The business has no value. It's like an asset sale because the business is like barely doing any sales, and this, the cook is there just doing everything. So he understood, so we couldn't come to an agreement, and we gave him our number, and a couple months later, he came by, and he didn't want this to be. I'm sure he could have made a little more if he listed this on LoopNet or CoStar or things like that, but he didn't want to because he didn't want like his church people to know. And it sounds weird, but you just when you're older and you have money, there's some things that you're particular about. And he didn't want someone from his community to know, or someone from his community to buy the business or buy the property off of him and later be like, oh, look, I bought the property off of this guy, and he couldn't run it, and I made it into this. And that's the last thing he wanted. So for that reason, he wanted to sell to someone just out of the community, right? These two Asian guys, So yeah, we had a meeting with him. We gave him our number. It was too low. And a couple months later, he came back and he said, I'll do it. So yeah, we bought the building, also doing seller carry note. So instead of going to the bank, we down paid a very small amount, like 15-20%, and the seller carried the rest as a loan, a low interest rate fixed loan. And he actually preferred to do that. So there's some tax advantages, so you don't pay a lot of tax up front. It's rare, but there are sellers out there for real estate that would actually entertain to do a seller carry for 80%, even 90% of the purchase price. It's rare, but there is tax advantages to that. So there might be sellers willing to do that, where they just have a lot of money. They don't really need all that cash and all that tax liability up front. So they'll prefer to just defer it and seller carry it. So we got very lucky with that one, where we were able to down pay just, small amount, and we got the property with it. So we were paying the loan. So we were paying rent to ourselves, and that rent went to pay the loan. So we inherited the restaurant for free, but the restaurant wasn't like profitable. So what we did was we went in there and we put in our own formula, which we know worked because we've been doing it now for like 3-4 years. We put in a little more menu items. We remodeled the place for another $50,000. We added EBT. We added takeout apps like Uber Eats, Postmates, because the other owner didn't know how to do that. We just kind of improved the food a little bit too. I feel like at that point I kind of knew the food pretty well, so I was able to bring food items from the other restaurants that I know were popular, and then kind of it was the same demographic of customers. So I brought over some items that were pretty popular, and people in the third restaurant, they liked it, so it helped with the sales, and we got lucky. It worked out. And that's the restaurant that we still have, because it's very passive. It's low maintenance. We have few employees there. Yeah, it worked out. And when you own the real estate, it's actually very good because you have a lot of exit strategies. So another thing to discuss is when you're on a lease, your hands are tied. If you want to sell the restaurant, so if you're on like a 5-year lease, right, and after year 1 or year 2, you're like, hey, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Whether you just don't want to do it anymore because you hate it, or whether you can't do it anymore because you're losing money and you're out of funds, you don't have any options. The landlord is going to say, okay, well, I'm going to sue you for $200,000. That's how much you owe for the next 4 years, and you're screwed, right? So you make a deal with the landlord. Hey, can I just pay 12 months worth? Can you let me go? And some landlords will let you go, like, all right, just give me 12 months, I'll let you go. So that's the worst case scenario. Another scenario is you could sell the business, try to get out of this lease by having someone else come and take over the lease. Your landlord could actually just stop that and say, no, I'm not going to do that. You can't make me do that. You know, the lease is with you. I'm not gonna get a new tenant, which I don't like, to take over your lease. So the landlord has all the control there, and you could try to sell, or or the landlord could say, fine, do that. I'll help you, and no one wants your business, which happens all the time. You know, businesses cannot sell. It's a very particular transaction. You know, it's not like stocks or real estate where eventually you'll go. Like some business just cannot sell. So yeah, if you're on a lease, like you better make sure this is something you want to do for the X amount of years that you sign up for, because you have to assume that there's no exit strategy. Or you know, sometimes or what we did is we got these long leases, like 20 years, 15, 20 years, so that if after year 2, year 3, year 4, we're like, hey, we want to move on, and the business is still profitable, we're able to sell the restaurant, because a lot of people do look for restaurants, and if there's enough years left on the lease, you know, it's a lot easier to offload, because the buyer needs the SBA loan, and SBA loan needs at least 7-10 years on the lease. All these reasons. We got lucky. We're able to offload the restaurant because they were still profitable. They were still doing well. We made money off the sale as well. The third restaurant is we own the property, so we don't, you know, we have a lot of extra strategies. So if you own the property, let's just say worst case scenario, your business goes to crap. You could always just sell the property for land value, you know, as vacant, and you might make your money back, or you might even make profit if you got the real estate at a low price. So at the worst case scenario, it's not really a bad case scenario, which is amazing, right? If you own real estate, because for all those years you've paid down the equity, or you've paid down the loan, so you've built up equity on the property, right? So, for example, let's say 10 years later, this business goes to crap and it's shut down, it's vacant. You know, I don't want to run it anymore. My partner doesn't want to do it anymore. The manager leaves, the sales plummets. We could always sell the real estate, and by then we're going to have a lot of equity there. So we might actually even make money by closing it down and selling it. So having a real estate is a very powerful thing if you have a business. But it's always easier said than done, because in order to have real estate, you need to have a lot of capital to purchase it. And oftentimes, you know, you do a restaurant, it's in like a retail strip, and you can't purchase the whole retail strip. It's like $5 million, $10 million, right? If you have a freestanding, which is what we have, a freestanding building, I mean, in LA County, it goes for at least 1.5 million, you know, so, you know, 20% down payment on that is like 300,000, and SBA rates today to get an SBA loan on a owner-user building, it's like 10, 11%. I mean, your loan payments are going to be like $12,000, you know, so it doesn't make sense today, unless you get really lucky and find a seller that's willing to seller carry you at a really low rate or something like that. But anyway, where am I going? I'm going to H Mart to pick up some items for dinner, and I'm going to be stopping by Mitsuwa Japanese Market to pick up ramen for my wife. And I'm still debating if I want like the udon there, or if I want to get Ono Hawaiian. I'm still debating because I'm a picky eater. So yeah, so that was a lot of things that I talked about, you know, just all over the place. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. I'll try my best to answer, but you know, it's kind of hard to answer every question, but I'll try my best. Yeah, that's about it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.